Good evening, YouTube. Thank you for joining me this evening and welcome to, I see Andrew is here, I see Philip, Arshambo, and Mike, and others who are, who are joining us. I am with a very, very special guest. I'm very lucky to have him speak with me, I believe, for the first time on a live stream like this. Our guest is an Egyptian. Has a very active channel on X. He discusses history. He knows a lot about the Muslim Brotherhood and jihad. We won't discuss much about his personal history and private life for security reasons. However, this should be a very interesting discussion. So please bring your questions. Ask. This man knows the Sharia in some ways better than I do. He knows the Arabic text that I don't understand and have access to. So he knows things that be above and beyond my knowledge as well. So this is a great opportunity to ask questions. And he is coming to us live from Kirplakistan. That's a true story. So yes, so Ibn Warraq, thank you very much. Please introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about yourself and why you chose to do this with me tonight.
As you just said, I'm Egyptian and I am not trained in Islamic theology by profession, but as I said, I'm autodidactic, like almost everybody who studied the subject. Decided years ago just to go on and read every book I can put my hand on. I am blessed or cursed with a good memory, so sometimes if I read something a couple of times, I still can remember where it is, how I get it and why I'm doing this space with you. First time we came in touch together, you were posting something about the Meren Betah stele.
Just say that
And
again about the
you posted something about the stele of Meren Betah.
the Merneptah stele, yeah, which is
And
from
and I was asking you your input about the Berlin statue pedestal. And then I found someone who's as nerd as me, and I liked you.
okay, great.
So
I'm
that's
just
as
gonna
simple as that.
yeah, I'm just gonna post that on for the audience to see. Just share my screen on this side. So everyone, this is the Merneptah stele. Now it'll come up in them. There you go. So the reason this is important is that you'll find like Paul Williams on YouTube, this the gay Muslim in London. He constantly posts coins of Palestine from 1937. Like, look how ancient Palestine is. But the Merneptah stele discusses Israel, and it's from an Egyptian pharaoh, and he discuss this is from 1200 BC, from before 1200 BC, and it literally discusses Israel as a nation, as a country.
It's interesting how he discussed it actually, because it's the exact same statement that's been said many times after Mary Ptah. He literally says Israel doesn't exist at all. Its seed is wiped out because
Yeah,
Egypt went to war against Israel, so we wiped them out. It's like said the Romans, the Greek, the Egyptian, the Hittite, the Assyrian. So
yeah. But it
and here
should be
we are.
noted that hyperbolic language was common. It's even in the Old Testament. You have hyperbolic, like it's like saying, my team wiped out the other soccer team this weekend. They crushed them, they demolished them, they devastated them. It's just a hyperbolic phrase,
Oh
but
yeah,
it's
our sports language today is a slaughterhouse language.
exactly. It's like and that's how warfare was described back then, to glorify the glorious victor. But yeah, so this proves that Israel is known as a culture, in fact, at least in before 1200 BC. And there's an earlier stele that you mentioned, the Berlin one, which goes back another 300 years, so
About
1500 BC.
about 1450, 1440.
Yeah, so much older. So Israel was a known nation state already 3,500 years ago.
I
And
don't
you'll
know. I
find,
don't know. I don't know if you know that Israel Jewish people had in Egypt. They had two functioning temples in Egypt.
all right, I didn't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one in Elephantine and one in Memphis. And they were not synagogue. They were functioning temples. And sorry, Alexandria. And Alexandria, we had in 350 BC, about 3% of the Egyptian population were Jewish, where
Okay.
basically the number of Jews, almost the number of equal to the percentage of Jewish in America today, where 3% of Egyptians were Jews.
Okay, so yeah, and then also we have a couple of like there's the Tal Dan stele, and there's another I can't remember the name, dated from like 1000 and from like 800 BC. So there's so in
That will be the Black Obelisk of Shalmaneser the Third, and it's
right,
in the British Museum,
and the
which
Tal
it
Dan
so it
stele.
shows Yahoo, the king of Israel, in giving tribute to the Assyrian king.
Yeah, so we know that at least 400, 500 years after these other records, we actually have existing records that Israel still existed as a nation. The house of David stood. We know this, so that Israel has a long-standing history with that land. So they're
Okay,
not interlopers, they're not new, they're not from
you know,
Poland,
how
as
how
you
did
think.
how did we start with this subject? But let me try to finish the Israel one as an
Okay,
Egyptian.
sure.
A few months ago, I came across something which I didn't know exist called the Cairo Geneza, which is basically, you know what's a Geneza? Uh, a,
Just
gene-
remind me.
a Geneza is a little hole or a little room in almost every Jewish synagogue where any sacred text is put there. They don't burn it, they bury it. And so they had the one in Egypt in Ben Ezra synagogue with the size of a room, and they put every text that has any mention from the Bible or anything like that. They put it in there, and they didn't empty it for 900 years. So you have about 500,000 document goes from the 9th to 19th century. Some
Hmm.
of it literally give me goosebump because you have a letter written by the hand of Moshe bin Maimonides, Rambam, his own
Hmm.
handwriting. It's like, and it was discovered by chance, and they are doing a huge study about it at Princeton. It's called the Geneza Project. Any one of your listeners who knows either Hebrew or Arabic can actually participate. They are crowdfunding, crowdsourcing the translation. Where you get in, if you know Arabic or Hebrew, you translate ancient document, and other people will check it. And yes, that's the Geneza lab. It's absolutely fascinating. So, and you have the record from Egypt during the Crusade, written during the Crusade, written during several ups and downs in Egyptian history. It's just
Are you
amazing.
sure these are not written in Palestinian?
They are written in Greek, in Hebrew, in what's called Judeo-Arabic, which is
And
another
no
fascinating.
Palestinian, are you sure?
There
Because
is no
Palestine's
such.
the
There is no.
oldest
There,
culture on
there,
earth.
there is no such thing as Palestinian language, by the way, as a
No,
language.
that can't be.
Sorry, there are a couple of things when it comes Palestinian. There's a couple of misconception. A lot of people don't take it. It's like the same thing like the idea of Canaanites. There isn't a single culture in human history called Canaanites. Doesn't exist. Canaanites is an Egyptian term, means the subjugated people. In Egypt, we used it to call people in the Levant, all of them, because I don't know. Have you ever been to Lebanon?
I have been to Lebanon a couple of times, yeah.
In Beirut, right by the site area called Nahr al Kalb, there is actually a relief by Ramses II when he was there. You know, it's like graffitiing the wall there. So all those areas where the Egyptian ruled for some time, they called it Canaan. Canaan means either the lowland or the subjugated land. But there isn't a group of people called themselves Canaanites. It's like
Yeah. It's a regional descriptor. It's not actually, it's like saying Asia or Europe. It's
or it's like calling Native American Indians.
yeah. No, I was being no. Just one thing to note. I tend to use a lot of irony and sarcasm, so people
I
tend to think I'm being serious.
I have Asperger, so it takes me a minute to get the irony,
Okay.
but I'll
Yeah.
catch up.
Yeah. So because the Palestine, I showed yesterday on a stream that the Palestinian tourism official tourism website says that Palestine is 1 million years old, and it is the place where literature, sailing, basket weaving, language, big pens, fire, the wheel, rocket ships, Tesla electric cars were discovered.
Yeah,
And
and me being a serious person, I'll take it. Yes, it's 1 million years old if you're talking about the geographical location as the place,
yes,
which had 1 million names by then. But historically, they are actually the last independent country on the history of that region was the Maccabean dynasty, the Hashmonean dynasty. That's the last one. After that, with the Greeks, the Roman, the Egyptian, the Arabs, but it never actually had any other kind of independence. But
Yeah. No, I mean, we know there was no Palestinian state, no such state ever existed, no such people ever existed. It was
uh,
just a geographical region renamed by the Romans. They renamed Jerusalem to Aelia Capitolina. They renamed the region to Syria, Palestina, as
and
a way
then
of,
the name disappeared until you get 19 and 18 19th century European biblical scholar, which is starting using the calling it the Holy Land or the Palestine using the biblical terminology, and it was called Gund al-Sham, Mutasarrifat al-Sham by the Ottomans. And one of the oldest Arabic maps we have is by Idrisi. He called it the Sham. Uh, Funny story about this map. I got kicked out of a museum where they have it in Spain because
Mhm.
Idrisi did the map where he had the south is up and all the writing the south is up. So they put it in the museum upside down.
Ah,
The Arabic's upside down. So I'm telling the creator there, ma'am, you know this is the Arabic writing is upside down. I said, no, we have to put it this way. I said, why? Because he made it wrong. He put the north down. I said, you know, we live in a globe. There is no up and down in a globe. So I got kicked out of the museum for correcting the curator. But
wow. Yeah, okay, I can get it. Just so, by the way, for the audience, this is from the Biblical Archaeology Society. One thing Muslims will do, they'll speak about Palestine and they'll refer to the ancient Greeks or whatever from the 2nd century. But for the Greeks, Palestine also meant Israel. We're not speaking now about
it's actually it's literal translation because the Greeks are used to name cities after their gods. Athena, for example. So the word Israel is in Hebrew is literally two words: uh, wrestle, wrestling with God.
they wrestle with God, yes. And no, that's a
So
reference to Jacob.
yeah, so Israel, if you translate the word wrestler in Greek, it's Palisto.
Yeah. So it's a
So
play on words.
so it's
Yeah.
plain word, and translation is like we're arguing. Does it mean the golden, the Ivory Coast, or Cote d'Ivoire? One is English, one is French. So this is it means the same thing.
Yeah, so just to let people know. And then also I want to show you we've seen the Geniza lab. I also wanted to show you in Egypt, in the south of Egypt, they there's the oldest inscription of the name of Yahweh, which dates to almost 1400 BC, and it's
14,
called the
1450, yes, that's the
yeah,
Shaso.
and the Shasu of Yahweh, or the Shasu of Yahu. So this is the earliest mention of Yahweh as a god, which means the Israelites were there. We're looking again at 1400 BC. Now, the archaeological records of Palestine go back to about 1968, approximately, which is roughly 10 minutes after the Jews were around. So, yeah.
Because archaeological record in the Middle East was actually for for sociological reason was never a big thing until Europeans start digging this stuff. I don't know if you've ever seen some pictures in late 1800 in Egypt where Egyptian peasant selling ancient mummies in the streets.
Yes, I've seen some
They
of
were
that.
literally because and until 1982 Egypt didn't have any official law regarding dealing in artifacts, ancient artifacts, because it's background noise for us. I grew up seeing the pyramids and I grew up seeing all this stuff everywhere, and it didn't make a big deal. I don't know if you know the story of Henry Eston Laird, the guy who discovered Nineveh. He decided he wanted to discover Nineveh
Right.
in like 1840. Before him, I believe the British Encyclopedia was saying the Hittite is a fictional group that's mentioned by the biblical author. A few years later, we know everything about the Hittite after discovering the Ashurbanipal library because Henry Eston Laird decided he want to go and discover it. If you ever been to the British Museum and you see the Lakish mural and lion hunt, he's the one who discovered those. But he was a bad archaeologist. He basically got a hammer and broke everything down for transportation. So you'll find bits and pieces in the British Museum.
Oh, that's pretty bad.
But we know about the Hittite today more than we know about the Egyptian.
Okay. Yeah. So sorry. So we kind
Sorry,
of just veered into this conversation. So you
back to
have a very
Sharia.
strong knowledge of history, and you have a very strong knowledge of also things like the Sharia, jihad, all of the Islamic doctrine, the workings of the Muslim Brotherhood, and also Palestine. So you're very well aware of how all of these things fit together in history. And you've been recommended by some pretty big accounts as someone to refer to for knowledge on these issues.
I am a nerd and I like history. So and when I find something, I keep digging until I found where it's coming from. So, but you were saying something about Sharia. I don't know what you mean.
I mean, when we talk about the Sharia, look, I'll make it easy then. So Muslims claim that Islam has it's a way of life. It's a deen, right? A deen they actually define in Islam's dictionaries, in the major dictionaries like the Al-Qamus, Al-Muhit, and so
Okay,
on,
true,
and the Lisan
true.
al-Arab as a totalitarian political system. And Islam has a full legal system, a full legal corpus that can replace Western law.
From yeah, from birth to death.
Yeah. So the
Well, the
Sharia is
reason
a
yeah
legal
the
system.
reason I said I don't know what you mean is because the vast majority of people who use the term Sharia today have no clue what they are talking about
Agreed. I mean,
because
people use it all the time. Agreed. And they
y-
never show it. They never actually open a book and say, boom, have a look.
because for one, the vast majority of Muslim globally, that's my personal claim. I didn't do the statistics, but I can tell you that my reasoning have absolutely no idea what Islam actually teaches. Because until 150 years ago, the vast majority of the body of literature in Islam was not translated into outside Arabic. It either existed in Arabic or in Urdu and wasn't translated
Hmm.
because in the beginning it was forbidden for Muslim at the beginning of Islam to actually take the Quran with them to the non-Muslim country. So there was a huge debate about Muslim even can we translate the Quran. They only start
Right.
translate it after Christians started to translate it. So they
Yeah.
needed to have their own theological bent on the text. So Muslims start to translate the text and mostly convert. So those who talk about Sharia don't really know what actually they're talking about. Like, for example, in Islamic Sharia, you would have, by definition, you must have multiple tier legal system. Like there is a statement by several Ibn Abbas, Muhammad is uncle. ليس على أهل الكتاب حدود. There are no punishment for the people of the book because the essence of Islamic Sharia is a purification system. Muhammad said anybody who commits a dhanb, a sin, and get punished for it in this life, Allah would not punish him in the hereafter. So, for someone who's going to spend eternity in hell, according to Islam, punishment in this life is really irrelevant. So it's basically done because I don't know if you know this about in Islam afterlife system. Every single Muslim, according to the Quran, will spend some time in hell.
And they have to
That
cross
is
the bridge,
uh,
cross hell. They will crawl on their hands and knees
yeah,
like a razor
no,
blade,
no,
cut
no, no,
themselves.
not the bridge. That's Surah 19, verse 70 and 72. The Arabic says, وَإِن مِّنكُمْ إِلَّا دَاخِلُهَا. None of you will, every one of you will enter it. Then we will save those who are righteous and we leave the others in. That's Surah 19, 70, 72. So, but to shorten that time, the punishment had to be performed here. So if you have an Islamic society where you have Muslims and you have non-Muslims, non-Muslim shouldn't be under Islamic Sharia, Islamic legal system, because they cannot be purified of their sins. They are not Muslims.
So none of this makes any sense then.
No, again, Islamic Sharia is not designed for governing the society. It's designed as purification for the hereafter. To the extent
Yeah.
that a Muslim ruler, according to Sharia, if you came to a ruler and confessed a sin or confessed a crime, he has to actually dictate to you how to deny it. And
Yeah, that.
they can taken that from someone came to Muhammad. His name is Ma'iz ibn Malik, and he says, I committed adultery. And Muhammad says, maybe you kissed. He said, no, I committed adultery. And no, maybe you forgot. So he's trying to give him a way out until the guy insisted that he did it. Then he ordered his follower to take him and punish him. And during the punishment, he tried to run once he started stoning him. And then they ran after him and killed him. And Muhammad said, uh, you should have left him because you're punishable if you want it to be. And then you get other idea where the people who talk Sharia today think it will make the society better. It wouldn't. Um, Years ago, probably about 20 years ago, there was a case in Egypt where somebody stole a heavy machine that was used in the building of the underground, in the tube in Egypt, subway, whichever word you use. And a lot of people said, if we have Sharia, that would never happen. Actually, no, because if you have Sharia, a public property is owned by the state, which everybody pays tax towards the state. So the thief might actually own the stuff he stole because you're a taxpayer. You cannot be punished under Islamic Sharia for stealing public money because you pay taxes. But yes, it is. It is that the other thing is the system itself is designed ad hoc, like any legal system where you have a punishment that's retroactive. That is by definition unjust system. I don't know where you live. I don't want to know, but imagine where you live today is not a dry country, and you went out, had a drink, and tomorrow it became dry and it's illegal to drink. Can they punish you for your drinking today? You
If
follow?
just no,
If
just remind. Yeah.
sorry, where you live, it's not dry, and you can go out
No.
after we speak and have a drink.
Right. Yeah.
Imagine tomorrow they ban alcohol and make the country dry.
Oh no, no, they can't blame. They can't. No, they cannot retroactively blame you for something that wasn't a crime at the time. Yeah.
They can in Islam. The first few chapters, first three verses of Surah An-Nur, when people accused Aisha of committing adultery, and a month later, her innocence and the punishment for accusation came in the Quran. Those people were punished, even though when they committed the alleged crime, there were no law says what they did is a crime, because the system is ad hoc. Whatever happens, like may I make a quick comparison? Look at the Torah. Before the Jews entered the land, they had a law. Any law that you have in existence, almost any law, have two parts: the normative, you shall do and you shall don't. That's the normative, and then you have the casuistic law. If then, normative law is like the U.S. Constitution. That's normative.
Hmm.
The casuistic law is what you call in English legal or American legal system, you call it the case laws.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, don't kill. Okay, someone tried to kill me and I killed him first. That's killing. No, self-defense is okay. So the case law would explain it.
Right. Actually, someone's asking, just to mention, Catherine's
Sure.
asking, so Muslims can never admit to wrongdoing. I'm gonna go here to the Ihya
Sorry.
Ulum al-Din of Ghazali.
Yeah, Ulumuddin,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, and it says here that for a Muslim, so there is no sin in that falsehood which benefits a Muslim or removes a harm from him. So if a Muslim fears punishment, he can lie, and there is no sin in a lie that saves his honor or him from harm. And it says here that to disclose an obscene act is also an obscene act, because to disclose an obscene act, it violates two two doctrines. One, it's an insult upon Islam because it brings imperfection upon and shame upon the culture, upon Islam. So for you to do that is to show Islam in a bad light. So therefore you are actually doing a wrong thing by pointing to a crime and telling it publicly. And two, it is slander. So in Western law, we have the concept of slander, which is when you lie about someone and you cause them social harm. Whereas slander in Islam, ghibba, is defined within the Sharia as telling something that is true but would harm that person reputationally because it's true. It's something they wouldn't want revealed. And they can also define it as backbiting and other things. So to disclose an obscene act is also an obscene act. So to reveal a crime of your fellow Muslims, because Muslims support fellow Muslims. So every man should save his life, property, and honor by taking recourse to falsehood, to lies. So if you are asked about a secret thing of your brother Muslim, you can deny it to preserve his honor. And it says that if you hide the sins of your brother Muslim, then in paradise, Allah will hide your sins and won't judge you for those.
and
That's
and the foundation for that is a several hadith by Muhammad, where he says, "Man satara ala Muslim, satara Allah alayhi fi dunya wal akhirah." Whoever cover a Muslim sin or shortcoming, Allah will cover his. So you actually, if you saw a crime, you're not supposed to report it. Just
yeah,
uh,
no, which is
and
crazy. How can you then consistently enforce law? You know,
because the law is not designed to again, I was comparing the two things. You will find a law in a law of a land that designed to keep the society peaceful and safe is designed for everybody regardless of what the person belief system is. You commit a crime, you get the same punishment. That's the law. In Islam it isn't. Like two people would commit the exact same crime, one of them might walk and the other get executed, or one of them chops his hand. And I'll give you examples. And because, like, if a Muslim and Christian living under Islamic State stole something, if they stole from another Christian, then the Muslim might get punished, but the Christian wouldn't.
could
Because,
you just pause one moment, please, Ibn Warraq?
sure,
We've got
sure.
Islam Truth is a regular troll, and Islam Truth, this is probably what, the 12th time you've come on this channel under a new pseudonym. As I've said before, are you willing to come on with me live and you and I, we go through all of the Sharia manuals, all of the authoritative ones used in these schools of fiqh, we read them, and we see if you can validate the claims that you make.
Um,
Now, you were saying here that Lloyd thinks every Muslim is evil. No, Islam
uh,
is evil.
I was going to say there is every belief system, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, a belief system is judged by its founding document, not by the
Yes,
action of its followers.
yes.
You know,
However, everyone who calls himself a Muslim, though, by definition, then aligns with the Sharia, supports the Sharia, supports child rape, supports sex with infants, because that is part of the Sharia, supports what we see here, that you are permitted to lie. In fact, it is obligatory to lie according to the Sharia documents. That's the law of Islam, as it is used and known and studied and learned and
and
applied today.
I would bet you anything you like, if I'm a betting man, Islam Truth wouldn't know much about Islam to start with, because
Yeah,
you Classic Arabic or Quranic Arabic is actually a second language for Arabic speaking people. I learned it at school. It's not my mother tongue.
okay.
I speak Egyptian Arabic, which is different syntax and sometimes different vocabulary. And in some places where you have read the Quran, so that's how strange it is to Muslims. I was in a taxi in an Islamic country, and the driver had the Quran on, and it was Surah 9, Surah At-Tawbah, the
Hmm.
most violent surah in the Quran. And I was just asking him, he was Pakistani, do you understand what you're listening to? He said, no, but it gives me peace.
Right.
It's like because he's gone with, I believe him, he's gone with the internal music and the chant. He's not going with what it means.
Yeah, yeah. Just pause a
Because
moment, please. So Islam Truth, are you willing, once again, are you willing to come on with me live? We just read through what is in the Sharia, what these law books say, And remember, you want Muslims to, oh well, Muslims want to live under the Sharia. They want to enforce the Sharia worldwide, and you want Christians to leave their religion and, of course, become Muslims. Now, apparently, Sharia is better. It is superior. It is more moral. And if Sharia is perfect, because apparently Islam is perfect and the law of Allah is perfect, then why are you and every other Muslim I've ever spoken to terrified, absolutely terrified, and unwilling to show the perfect law of Allah publicly on a stream like this? Are you willing to come on live with me? Yes or no? That's all we need to know. Yes or no? We go through in detail. We look at infant sex. We're talking sex with infants. When we say 3 months old, 5 months old, a year old, 2 years old, that's what I mean. Islam permits that. Murder for apostasy. Murder for insulting Muhammad, which means you don't believe Muhammad is perfect. We'll look at the laws of jihad, the laws of dimitude, the laws of slavery, amputation, obligatory lying. Let's go through that, see if I am wrong. Versus, are you willing to come on? You see, now there you go. We don't have to leave your religion. That's why I've just, you are even lying about this. Are you willing to come on a stream with me? Yes or no? That's all I want. A yes or a no. Any other answer, I am not going to accept. Yes or no. So
Did you ever discuss the concept of jizya
in depth,
logically? What it means
in
logically, because the jizya is paid by, according to Islam, is paid by Christian, Jews, and Zoroastrians. Some Muslims says Hindus and Buddhists pay as well, but others says no. But according to Islam, Christian, Jews, and Zoroastrians are committing blasphemy by not being Muslims. So according to Islam, we are allowed to pay them a bribe in order to blaspheme, because they accept the money to leave you believe whatever it is you believe in, which they consider blasphemy. You're following?
No, just something, because the thing is that part of I've got to monitor the chat, I've got to monitor
Okay.
various things, so I can't always pay attention. But tell me again, please, and I'll
Because according to you're a Christian, according to Islam, that's blasphemy. Because you believe in the Trinity, you believe in Christ, and all the rest. Islam consider that blasphemy. So they allow you to commit blasphemy if you pay.
Right. That's crazy. They just want your money.
That's a mafia ideology.
Yes, no, agreed. Also, I've just banned Islam Truth. This is like the millionth time the guy's come on the channel under a different pseudonym. He always asks the same questions. It's quite obvious who he is. He says, I don't agree, apostate killed. Now, just because he's probably still listening, for the audience, it doesn't matter what a single individual Muslim thinks. It really is irrelevant. What matters is what the doctrine says, how it is understood by the leaders of the community, by the judges, by the imams, right, by the scholars in charge. So the doctrine is what matters, not the opinion of one guy. One guy.
That's what I was getting at. Any religion, any system is judged by its founding document. So Islam is to be judged by its founding document, not by the action of Muslim. As far as I'm concerned, the vast majority of Muslims are actually victims of Islam, and they are not like when somebody says, "Oh, those are not real Muslims." I really don't care. It's what is the text says. You know, the idea, not how consistent you are to the belief system you're supposed to follow it. Like if you discuss, I do believe sometimes you discuss with someone who's a relativist who doesn't believe there is any such thing as objective moral standard. Okay, so that's what you believe in. So if I hit you now, you're okay with it?
No, of course not. I mean, besides, it's like that only applies to you personally. What universal authority does that individual have?
I don't care what you think it's good or bad. You know, the system you adhere to says so. So as you said, if someone call you out on one of those, which is quite legitimate, because I personally not very sure that you can 100% confirm that's the death of apostasy in Islam. Because yes, we have hadith, man baddala dinu faqtulu, ever changes religion, kill him. We have Abu Bakr burning people and throwing them off the mountaintop, and Umdat al-Salik. I like this book. But at the same time, we have a verse in the Quran that actually contradicts death for apostasy.
Yeah. However,
You need
there is that, but then you've got abrogation, but then also you've got what's become the
exactly.
consensus. You've also
Uh,
got the consensus, and this
yeah,
is the
we have
written
we have
consensus.
obligation, but we don't know when the text is revealed. That's
Yeah.
the whole system. I hope they don't ban you for the sentence I'm going to say. Islam is intellectual junk food. You know,
No, not at all. I would never say that. Good
I
grief.
would,
I've
because
been saying that for years.
no, because it might look nice from outside, but once you scratch the surface, it crumbled. And probably that's one of the reasons why you have a lot of Muslim and European country uh, uh, throughout history completely ban anything called criticism of Islam. Like anybody who studied in other religion, they would have in their study textual criticism and criticism of their own text. You don't do that in Islam. It's you memorize, you see what it says. You cannot criticize the text. And when it happens throughout history, you get executed.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, on this point though, it is when you go through the legal text of the different schools, there is consistency. And so as it is written and understood today, no matter what the Quran says, as the law is written and understood today, whether people say that Sharia means law or not, and we can apparently it means ice cream, it means foot rubs, and it means wooden desk as well, right? So as according to whatever you read. But as it is written and documented today in the legal text, it this is what it means. This is what it says, and it consistently says like
Yes, this is absolutely true. But here is the point: if what it is stands for today is not absolutely supported by the founding text, it
no, I understood.
okay.
No, fully aware. Everyone know.
But it no,
The Sharia.
it means one thing. It's a man-made law. If it's a
No, agreed.
man-made law, why can't this man-made law be more logical, more
No,
consistent, more humane? If you already allowed yourself to make your own law, like
yeah.
there are verses in the Quran, which is one of them in particular was cancelled by Umar ibn Khattab. One of the spending places for zakat is to pay money for al-mu'allafa qulubihim, those who Islam want to appease, either new Muslims or non-Muslim. It's like public relation, the people they hire in TikTok today. And
Hmm.
Umar ibn Khattab, after Muhammad's death, he said, "No, that was when the Islam is weak. We no longer do that." The verse is still in the Quran, and he canceled it. So if you can do that, then you're really not doing Sharia. You're just doing seventh century legal system.
Hmm. Right. Right.
I talk a lot, so I'm taking pause so you can.
Thanks. No, appreciate. No, no. Look, the it's the first time we're speaking. We barely got to speak. We spoke for 2 minutes before trying to, and before that, we were just trying to fix the avatar issue. So we don't know each other yet. So we don't communicate, so smoothly yet. It does take time. It's never like, it's rare that it's like an easy flow at first. But on that point, I have not had a single Muslim accept that they'll call me a liar, and I'll say, you know what? Come on live with me. Prove to the world that I'm a liar. Let's go through the texts. Prove to everyone, show everyone publicly that I'm a liar. Let's do that. Not a single Muslim has ever accepted. Not one. I cannot get.
Because we have a completely dichotomous worldview with Islam. A lot of the things where we take issue with it in Islam, Muslims are actually proud of it. Like Abu Bakr, when he went around and murdering spree, killing everybody who said, we're not paying you zakah. And Muslim actually are very proud of it. And he says, no, Abu Bakr says, if they stop me a goat's robe, I will fight them for it. But if that's translated into a completely different worldview, we don't see it the same way. So they would have the problem either deny the books that they claim to be authentic,
Right.
or claim that every single Muslim in the last 1400 years doesn't understand what Islam is,
Yep,
including
they'll do that
Muhammad
too.
yeah, including Muhammad himself. because some of the stuff they claim that didn't happen, like you brought it up, is child marriage, and everybody goes for Aisha. It's in the Quran. Forget Aisha. It's a statement, general statement for the Quran says those who haven't menstruated yet, if they get divorced. Sorry, in Islam, to get a divorce and you need what they call idda, the period between marriages, must be after marriage consummation for those who haven't menstruated yet. This is, I'm sorry, I'm working from memory. I'm getting you the surah number.
60 verse 65
64 4, I believe.
65 4.
65 4. I don't have a digital memory. I remember the text, not
Here
the.
it is. This is the Sharia reference on that particular verse. This is the Sharia explanation here.
Yeah.
No, not this one. Sorry, it's a different one. But notice it says you cannot stone a woman who's had sex because it's not her fault if she is prepubescent at the time of marital intercourse. Prepubescent at the time of marital intercourse.
Yeah, and you cannot punish her for having sex because she might be a heavy sleeper. That's another one of the tidbit of Sharia. Or it might be because that's an excuse in Sharia. Someone mistaken a woman for his wife. You know, it happens all the time.
No, I do that all the time at the supermarket. I accidentally, it's a common problem. We all have it. I'll just bring up that particular. I'm just finding that particular one. But notice it says he or she. So you can also, a woman could have sex with the 5-year-old boy. That's also, here it is. This is the ruling. A woman's postmarital waiting period in idda. And it speaks here of a waiting period is obligatory for a woman divorced after intercourse, whether she or her husband are prepubescent, both have reached puberty, or one has reached puberty and one has not. So prepubescent sex is definitely permitted in Islam.
And for Shia, it's probably worse because for Shia, they might allow temporary marriage for prepubescent.
Yeah.
But you know, when you have a system, a belief system that incoherent, that absurd, the only way is to keep it whole is to institute blasphemy law. You cannot criticize it. And if you say anything wrong about it, we'll get you. So
actually, I'll bring that up. I'll bring that up, and you can just give us your thoughts as well. Let me just see. Yeah. Let's see. Then we can. Okay, I'll just bring this up. This
الصارم
is
المسلول على شاتم الرسول ابن تيمية.
yes.
Yes,
This one is very explicit.
Oh yeah, I know it.
This
It's actually quite interesting in Islam. If someone blasphemed against Allah and repented, he's forgiven, and there's no punishment to the person. But if he said something bad about Muhammad, even if the person repented, it should be a capital crime as well, even if the person repented.
Yeah, it says here it is not permissible to favor him or to ransom him. So
Oh
yeah.
So it's like,
and even repentance is not sought from him. It says so here.
Repentance against blasphemy is okay, but against Muhammad is not.
Yeah, you can insult Allah and get hit with a stick, but you say something bad about Muhammad, they kill you on the spot. It's crazy. It says here, this is the general view, this is the ijma of these scholars, that whoever insults the Prophet, whether Muslim or non-Muslim, so for the audience, you need to understand, and you have to impress upon your politicians, your whomever, Sharia applies not just to Muslims, it applies to you. The prime directive, the prime doctrine in Islam is commanding the right and forbidding the wrong. They've got to enforce the Sharia and prevent violation of the Sharia. So they've got to prevent you from violating the Sharia. And so, you need to understand that Sharia applies to non-Muslims as well, worldwide. And the question is just whether or not a Muslim is going to be willing in a Western country to enforce the Sharia, as we've seen recently in Germany and Austria and other places, where they are willing to do so, where they are willing to go and do these things. So the scholars have consensus that whoever insults Muhammad is to be killed. And this book goes on and on like this. It's just killing, killing, killing. And
And if the legal system or the state didn't do it and an individual did it, there is no punishment for the individual. Back in the 90s in Egypt, we had a very enlightened Egyptian author, Farag Foda, and he was basically executed in front of his office. And they got the Grand Sheikh of Azhar in the murder trial. I said, "Oh, he just took a presumption upon himself to kill the guy, but he shouldn't be punished for it."
yes, they let him free, right? Because the crowd was on the. Yeah, I remember this case.
No, he got some years in prison because the court didn't listen to Sheikh Al Azhar, but the
Okay.
religious authority says he shouldn't be punished at all,
Yeah.
because what he did, he took it upon himself to do the job of the government.
Wow.
That was it. It's not murder.
And notice they speak here of political killing because there is a benefit. This is so the killing due to the likes of those reasons and to be according to a perceived benefit. They call this the political killing. And the
because
Imam,
because Muhammad practiced that with Abu Ifk, Salam ibn Rafi ibn Abul Haqiq, and Asma bint Marwan, with several people. He actually practiced that, where he sent a delegation to kill them, some of them in their sleep.
yeah. So political assassination is legal in Islam, and it can be, and the Imam can order such a killing. It's crazy. An Imam can order a hit on someone, which is nuts. Yeah.
The problem you have with the modern day the Sharia brigade is every single belief and political system have the concept of perfect society, but that perfect society is in the future. You progress to the better. Christians do it, Jewish do it, atheists do it.
Yeah,
You
but
you're
within
trying,
Christianity, our kingdom is not of this world. As
yeah,
that
but
kingdom is in
it's still
heaven.
future. My point is, it's still in the future. It's not now. You work towards the betterment of everybody to the future. In Islam, the perfect society is the first generation of Muslims. It's not the future, it's the past. So,
Yes.
like
Okay.
Muhammad says, the best generation is mine, then those who follow, and this who don't follow, and then everything deteriorate. You will find, if you study in the last 150 years, different Islamic groups, each one of them becomes more violent than the one before, because they're trying to get to the recipe of the 7th century.
Hmm.
Like Al Qaeda didn't have a slave market or burning people alive. When ISIS came, they did that because early Islam had a slave market and Abu Bakr burned people alive. Then, whatever it is, they tried to match the recipe of the 7th century. So you're talking with people that literally want to drag the whole world to live in the 7th century environment with
Hmm.
everything in it. And
Yeah.
you're talking with people with the 1400 years time difference.
Right. Also, you mentioned Al Qaeda. I should just note for the audience again, just the point of interest. Al Qaeda never called themselves Al Qaeda. That was a name applied by Barack Obama's CIA and such. Well, even prior to that. But I mean, you're looking at the Bush government and so on, the Clinton government, infiltrated by the Muslim Brotherhood in the shape of CARE. So Al Qaeda is translated typically as the base, and it doesn't mean a secret lair in a cave or a military base. It just means the base
The
of
foundation.
devout Muslims. The foundation, yeah, the foundation. That's what it means. The foundation of Muslims who believe in the purity of Islam and want to make a caliphate, blah, blah, blah. However, Al Qaeda actually called themselves the Global Jihad. And the majority of their members were not Arabs, were not in Arabia. Like 70% of Al Qaeda is based in India. So if you want to stop radicalism and Islamism, which is another fake term, which just means not real Muslims, then you need to also deal with Pakistan and India, who are even worse than what's happening
You
coming out
you
of
hit
Arabia.
the yeah, you hit the nail right on the head, because one of the major contributor to all of those, you have his book in your library, was Abu al-A'la al-Mawdudi.
Mm.
In his book Al-Mustalahat
Milestones.
al-Arba'a, the four terminology, where he get ruling is not to be in the prerogative of any human being. He completely remove making laws out of the hands of any human. And as a part, when the British left Pakistan, the Jama'ah Islamiyya with Abu al-A'la al-Mawdudi and Abu al-Hasan al-Nadawi, they had part to play in the Pakistani government. That was 47. The Egyptian Muslim Brotherhood thought they will do the same thing in Egypt. Abdel Nasser was a member of the Brotherhood.
Okay, no. I know
Uh,
this. I mean, Bin Laden was as well, for instance.
uh, Bin Laden because all of them, it's if you follow the map, Maududi did taught in Saudi, and Bin Laden studied in Saudi, and Abdullah Azzam, the Palestinian Afghani jihadi, also studied there, and it's all the same link with the exact same ideology. The difference happened is the Egyptian government didn't actually give the Muslim Brotherhood role in the government that to run Egypt after 52. Instead, they executed Sayyid Qutb and a few
Hmm.
others. And since then, it started to mushroom into one group after another. During his time in jail in Egypt, I believe he wrote
Milestones.
Milestones,
Yeah.
Ma'alim ala Tariq. He wrote it in prison. And the worst thing you can have is someone is writing a legal document and is trying to be poetic. So it's anybody can understand it any way they like. The Arabic can be understood in so many different ways. That's how you get takfir wa hijra in Egypt. That's how you get Jama'ah Islamiyya, you get Islamic Jihad, because each one understand Qutb in a different way.
Mhm.
And of course, the second book he wrote in jail was Our Battle Against the Jews. That's the title of his second, one of
Okay, I
his
didn't know
books.
about that. Okay.
معركتنا مع اليهود, Our Battle Against the Jews. And we still today, actually, in the consequence of the writing of Sayyid Qutb, Hamas is a direct disciple of him as an offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah, I mean that they're in their 1988 um, constitution, they state we are the Muslim Brotherhood in Palestine. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, they didn't deny it until they get a westernized public relation expert to tell them, tune it down, guys, just don't say
yeah,
it out loud. But in
yeah.
Arabic, they still say it out loud. It's still the exact same thing, because the whole point with them is it's not, as a lot of people, including yourself, says it's a global khilafah. Global khilafah is actually probably a first step, because according to the Quran, we have these days Elon Musk has gone into the whole idea of multi-planetary species. According to the Quran, if we discovered intelligent life form in another species, we have to fight it as well, because the Quran says, fight those who are near you or next to you. There is no terminating point, uh, even on planet Earth. If you turn everybody into Muslim, then you start, but he's a Sunni, I'm a Shia. You will start the inner fight. The first major fight in Islam was what? With Aisha versus Ali, or Aisha versus Uthman.
Say that again.
The first major inner conflict in Islam was Aisha and Ali, and Aisha and
Yes, of
Uthman.
course. So this was like supposedly called the Ridda Wars after Muhammad's death, and then she took 10,000 people, and she rode on the camel, and they fought a great battle, and thousands
Before
died.
that was Ali. Before that, she actually called for the killing of Uthman, and when Uthman died, killed by one of Muhammad ibn Abu Bakr Siddiq, the son of Abu Bakr, they didn't bury him in a Muslim graveyard. They buried him in a place called Hish Kaukab, which was a Jewish cemetery. You really, that the significance of not burying him in a Muslim cemetery is it's quite big, because in Islamic theology, they believe people torment start in the cemetery, in the grave.
All right.
So, because they didn't consider Uthman to be a Muslim, so they didn't want him to be tormented in a Muslim graveyard, so he would hurt Muslim next to him. So they buried him in a Jewish cemetery.
Okay, so that, I mean, couldn't that just be some kind of a story they made up, and maybe he was actually Jewish? Maybe historically he was actually Jewish.
Again, it could be. There is one statement, allegedly Ali ibn Abi Talib said it. He said, "Take from the Quran whatever you want to whatever you want." Or the idea, they said, it's multifaceted system, because it's an ad hoc, incoherent, self-contradictory system. You can actually reach any conclusion.
There is
You
that.
can,
It doesn't
you
follow
can, yeah.
non-contradictory logic. Yep, I mean,
But
there is.
it lasts until today. One of the things you will hear a lot from Muslim apologists who said, "Oh, we like Christians and Jews, and Islam allows us to marry Christian Jewish women."
Yeah.
And here's a question for any one of those. Okay, you married a Jewish or a Christian woman, and she died pregnant. Where would she be buried? That's, by the
Be a
way,
Christian
a
or Jew.
huge problem,
Okay.
because you cannot bury her in a Muslim cemetery, because she's not a Muslim.
Yes.
You cannot bury her in a Christian or Jewish cemetery, because the baby in her womb is a Muslim. Some
Wow.
scholar says, the most consistent scholar says, open her up, because consistently open her up, get the baby out. Others says you use her as a coffin and you bury her in her own, not with Muslims and not with Jews.
Give me a second. So you have to open her up and then separate the two.
That's the logical conclusion. Nobody said that out loud, but that's the logical conclusion.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Something ad hoc is something that is done on the fly. So Catherine's asking, what does it mean?
I'll explain what I mean by ad hoc. There is a verse in the Quran
Yeah, there we go.
where Allah is cursing people who refuse to go to battle. And then Abdullah ibn Maktoum, a blind companion of Muhammad, said, "What about me?" And then the Quran came later and said, "Except those who are sick and have." So he does something, and then he doesn't. Somebody tells him there is a problem with that. Then the Quran comes later and fix the problem.
Yes.
Like the Quran, the Meccan said to Muhammad, they allegedly prayed to Allah, said, "Allah, if that's the right from you, send fire and brimstone upon us from heaven." And then the Quran says, "Oh, Allah is not going to punish them as long as you live among them."
Yeah, he makes
And
it up as he goes. It's so convenient.
and then he went to Medina. Then he's not among them any longer. Oh, Allah is not going to punish them as long as some of them will repent. So that's what it means by ad hoc. You make something up and do it as you go, like what we're doing today. This is an ad hoc conversation,
Right.
because
Yeah, and it's true, we didn't
because
really plan.
we
I have a
didn't
bunch of
prepare
questions
anything.
to ask actually, but
Ask away.
yeah, I just thought, I mean, like I said, we for the audience, we didn't plan this. We didn't have a chance to speak, and yeah, I thought we'd just take this one on the fly, ad hoc. But you have on your X, you have great knowledge of the Muslim Brotherhood. You have great knowledge of Islam, the Quran, but better than mine. I mean, you know the Sharia in ways that I don't. You understand the culture. I mean,
I
I can
read them.
read.
I read them in the original language.
There's also that. Yeah, the original language versus the English translations. There's sometimes some very big differences, and also you understand. You had a very interesting post today or yesterday about the kafir, the Palestinian kafir, And this is actually an invention of British soldiers in the 40s.
Galop Basha, yes,
Can you
because
talk about that? Because this is supposed to be,
it,
it's supposed to be an ancient tradition that goes back
no,
1,000,000
no,
years.
the ancient one was called Sudra, and that was a Jewish head cover. But the Kufiyya, Galop Basha, when they had in the 30s, had the British doing the first partition, Transjordan and the mandated Palestine. He wanted to distinguish between the Jordanian patrol and the Palestinian. Everybody was wearing the white head cover. So Galop Pasha gave them the checkered red and white. That's the Jordanian one. And it's the one with tassels on it. The Saudi one doesn't have tassels.
Yeah.
And
So this is a 1940s creation, 1940s
19,
invention, right?
1930s.
30s. Okay.
Yeah. And it just became simple after that, because before Galop Pasha actually have it, it was you have the plain white cover like the Saudi and Emirati wear today. But then you have the black and white one, different split. There are actually two kind of them. There is the wider black and white, which was made famous by Arafat. That's the Fath one. And then you have the smaller checkered black and white. That was the PFLP.
Okay.
That people sometimes in protest and when they walk in the streets of London, New York, the kufiyas they wearing is like, okay, guys, if you actually existed in the same place in Gaza, you would be killing each other, because those people don't function well together. Because you have one that belongs to Fatah, one belongs to the Popular Front, another belongs to Jordan, and you have, Columbia University students think it's a cool thing to wear anyway.
Right. I just want to say thank you to Blue Light Moon. Thank you. That's a $5 donation, or €5. Thank you very, very much. Really grateful. I want to show this for the audience, and maybe you can give us your thoughts. This is from the Arab Revolt, which, I mean, there were multiple revolts.
1936.
Yeah. So this is a photo from that period. And notice though, these are Palestinians, the world's oldest nation, right? Remember, the Palestinians had their own flag, their own coins, borders. They
Do you know?
have
Sorry, do you know who designed the flag?
what I'm saying is no, that I'm making fun because these
Yeah, I know
people,
you're making fun, but it's the irony. Who designed the flag?
it's who?
Mark Sykes.
Mark Sykes. Who's that?
As Sykes-Picot, the guy.
Oh my golly, good
Mark
grief.
Sykes is the one who designed the flag. It was designed for the Arab revolt against the Ottoman, which the Sudanese, the
Right.
Iraqis,
So these
so
people aren't even very original. Yeah.
it was designed by a British officer.
Brit. Good grief. I just want to show the audience though, you can go through any number of photos of these Arab revolts, like especially 1936. Notice not a single kafia to be seen.
It didn't
Not
exist at the time.
one. Nowhere. This thing, if you go through Arab Revolt 1936, I'm just trying to find the most common photo that people use. Here's one. Notice again. Okay, let me just open image in new tab. Notice these people are dressed like typical Arabs. This is Saudi Arabian dress. This is standard Arabic dress. Wherever you go in the Middle East, Jordan, Lebanon.
If you want to find the kufiyya during that time, you don't look for a kufiyya, you look for a sudra. You will find a sudra. You'll find the Jewish person wearing the sudra, the checkered one. It was a Jewish. You will see what's his name, wise man wearing it quite often. Hayim Wiseman with wearing
So
it.
we've got, just so you know, so everyone, we've got Gail coming on. He's here to change the subject because this is all they can do. He has no facts to offer. He has no evidence. He has nothing. Their job is to distract. Their job is to change the subject, to take us away from what we're discussing. So that's
I don't. I read the question, but I actually don't understand the point he's trying to make.
No, he's basically. I mean, he's got some other comments he's making here. I mean, this is just the job that they have. Like, Christianity's a revolution. Blah blah blah. And look, I'm sorry, but this is, and your prophet was a pedophile and a murderer and a rapist. So really, just spare us, okay? So yeah, make him go away. Thank you very much for that. Just he's wasting our time. Again, standard thing. If you believe Islam is superior, if you believe that the Sharia is so superior and you want us all to accept it, come on and we look at it. And then you can convince us that it is a superior moral system. It should be noted, Islam does not have morals. There is no morals in Islam. There are
Uh,
laws. There's halal and haram. There's
the,
legal and
the,
illegal.
the concept of logically, the concept of objective morality in Islam doesn't exist, because if you have objective morality, it means something is wrong regardless, universally. Don't
Yeah, but it
murder
also means it means that you would judge Allah, and Allah is exempt from objective morality because Allah
and
can do anything, even
and
evil.
and he changed certain things where they were absolutely forbidden, and then they were allowed. For example, Muslims, still debatable, Muslims were allowed before the Quran says no to marry more than four. Now they can, four is maximum. But Muhammad didn't apply that to himself. He had 11.
Yes. Yeah.
And then
Just
you would have alcohol was
sorry.
allowed, forbidden. Sorry, go on.
No, just apologies to the audience. I have tried to tune the Streamlabs bot. Maybe I need to go back to my older bot, my previous one, because it was well tuned. The Streamlabs bot is just oversensitive, so it's not me doing anything. It's the bot. I've tried to tune it, but maybe I'll just cancel the bot and just go back to my old one, because the bot on this platform is just too sensitive. Apologies for that. Please go on, Ibn Warraq.
So you would have a lot of things that's morally objectionable in Islam. It was allowed before. So that means you don't actually have an objective moral standard. It's on a whim of Allah to change whatever he considered to be haram at one point, to be, all Muslims at some point were allowed to do temporary marriage, which is today in Sunni is not allowed. That means either you're doing something you consider wrong, now it's not. It just completely removed the idea of objective moral standard. You do have in your library the book of Tabari, I believe.
I should have a number. Let me see what Tabari books I have in the library.
You have his commentary in the Quran.
I've got the whole series, the entire series.
Yeah,
Is
because there's I haven't read the English, because there is something in it in where they have a specific prerogative for Muhammad in Islam, including some of them. He can take your food even if you starve to death, or if he likes your wife, you have to give her up.
okay.
That's the Sudra. That goes way, way, way longer than the Kufiyya.
Yeah. And this is a Jewish thing also, because apparently it symbolizes the fish net, like like the Sea of Galilee and Jesus and the fishermen come be fishers of men.
It goes before Jesus. You will find it on the obelisk of Shalmaneser III, where it goes to 700 BC.
Yeah, but apparently it's supposed to symbolize fishing. Like this is like the fishing net, the symbol of the nets of the fishermen. Where was that this year?
The one thing, the picture you shared when you said the ancient people, actually the majority of the people in that picture are either Egyptian or Saudi.
Okay, yeah.
Because a lot of people think things happen and historically happen in a vacuum. Remember in around 19th century, you have the Egyptian-Ottoman War, which resulted in Ibrahim Pasha taking thousands of Egyptian Sudanese with him to actually live in Haifa and Akka. You have Said Pasha digging the Suez Canal, which forced labor, which resulted in a lot of Egyptians actually escaping forced labor into Palestine. And then you have the Ottoman Hijaz War, which resulted in the escaping of a lot of Hijazi Saudis into Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine. And you have the Ottoman Austrian War, which Bosnian escaped from the Austro-Hungarian Empire into the Ottoman Empire, and some of them ended in Palestine. So you have the group of people is pretty new. Population-wise, the area which is today called Israel and Jordan, the entire population about in 1800 was something like 500,000. Today is today the same area is about 25 million. Jordan, Israel, Judea and Samaria and Gaza, that's about 25 million people.
Okay.
In 1800, it was 500,000. The population, back then was about 2.5, 2.6% of what it is today. So
Right.
it was almost empty.
So it's a genocide, in other words, a complete genocide.
Again, if you're talking genocide, I don't know what you
I
mean
mean, the
by that.
population went from 500,000 to 10 million. That's a genocide.
Okay, sorry. Again,
Sorry.
I said I have Asperger, so it took me a second.
Okay,
I get it
sarcastic.
now. No, that's okay. Um,
Yeah.
you cannot actually account for the population between 1800 and 1940 without mass migration from Egypt, Sudan, Syria, and other places.
Mm. Yeah.
It wouldn't work.
No, true. I mean, also we know that the land was actually desolate. If you read, uh, when we read historical accounts of the land of Palestine or the territory of Palestine, from the
Yeah,
late 1800s, Mark Twain went there.
Mark Twain and
Yeah,
Christian
there were
pilgrims and
numerous
all.
people that went. There was a French philosopher, there was a French poet who went. All of them write that the land was bare. It was desolate. There was no one there. You could go for days not seeing a single person. You'd
That
find,
actually the record that tells you how desolate it was the tax record of the Ottomans, because we do have those, because one thing any government knows how to do is to collect taxes.
Mhm.
So you have the tax record where it's the population wouldn't exceed by 1800 or even 1880, or wouldn't exceed 600,000, and within 60 years it jumped to 1 million.
Okay. Okay, so those records, and also, why didn't the Ottomans grant Palestinian independence to the Palestinians? Because they
Uh,
weren't, because all the passports were Jordanian and Egyptian, all the birth certificates were Jordanian and Egyptian, all of the identity documents were Syrian, Jordanian.
yeah, if you look at what happened on the region, the Brits literally imported kings from Saudi, because the Iraqi was a Hijazi king, the Jordanian back then, Abdullah was born in Mecca. The Syrian king was Saudi. So they were trying to give. Ever heard of Gertrude Bell?
The name is vaguely familiar, but I can't say
Okay,
it.
she's a British lady who literally drew the map of Iraq, literally, and tried to put as much area as possible in Iraq, to the extent that she, responsible for putting the Kurds and the Sunni and the Shia in one big country, to increase the size of the Arab Empire that was supposedly to replace the Ottoman one. The whole problem you have in the last 100 years is because if you want to have the Arabic Empire, either pan-Islamism or pan-Arabism, goes from Bahrain to Morocco, what's the problem you have? You have a little land in the middle that doesn't belong to the Arabs.
Okay.
So, like Abdel Nasser had absolutely no problem with, at some point, with the partition of Israel, as long as he takes the Negev. So it will connect Egypt to Jordan,
Hmm.
because he wanted to be, the pan-Arabism under his leadership. He tried that with Syria and with the United Arab Republic. There was an absolutely fascinating character at the time. Um, I digress, but I'll get there. In 1950, there was a German propagandist who was recruited by Amin Husseini from Argentina, came to work as Abdel Nasser personal education advisor. by the name Johann von Leers.
Okay, I don't.
He was Joseph Goebbels' assistant. The guy wrote something like about 30 books in German about the Third Reich and the Jews and everything. So this guy had a disagreement with Ribbentrop and Goebbels over the German-Russian relationship. He thought if they can cooperate with the Russian, they might be able to overthrow the West quicker. And they lost. Then when he came to Egypt, he tried actually to instantiate the same thing, where the Arab world, with the lead of Abdel Nasser, along with the Soviet at the time, they would finish up what Hitler couldn't, the 1,000 years Reich. And the problem you have from there, that was in the 50s, is you have the Egyptian education was actually responsible for educating the Middle East, Syria, Iraq, Libya. Egypt would export textbooks and teachers, including the whole of the Gulf. And the social curriculum of Egypt was designed by an actual Nazi.
You know what? There were two of. It was a Goebbels and his brother. Oh no, there were two of the famous Nazi commanders were born in Egypt. Some of these Nazis.
Yes, Hess was born in Alexandria.
Yes, yeah, Rudolf Hess and his brother. They were born in Egypt, which is crazy. There's a few of them that were born there, and in fact, they sent. They were collaborating with the Muslim Brotherhood to do whatever it is against Israel or something at the time.
Hassan al-Banna was working for the Germans, and the Egyptian king was working for the German.
Right. Just a quick deviation,
because the whole idea of the back then of the occupation. Remember that Egypt at the time was under occupation. We had an Albanian king.
Albanian. That makes perfect sense.
Muhammad Ali dynasty. So it wasn't the idea that we want nationalism. It just we didn't want, the Jews here.
Hold on, I'm just trying to get some info. There's just something I'm looking up, but there's a question here from Honey Badger, codename Honey Badger. I saw in a video that the Prophet was actually an Ebionite Nestorian from Al Azhar on a TV interview. Is that true? Man, maybe.
I understand where it came from, because there is a hadith in Bukhari when it's talking about Waraqah ibn Nawfal.
Yeah, I'd have to say no, right?
No, Bukhari says about Waraqah, he would translate from the Hebrew Gospel as much as he can. The problem is we don't have anything called the Hebrew Gospel. So some scholar would say what he called the Hebrew Gospel with the Ebionite text. I believe Patricia Crone and Michael Cook went with that theory. There is a very
not exactly, because there's look, it's actually off topic, so I'd rather not explore that. It's actually, I'd say no. Generally speaking, I'd say no, but yeah, it doesn't strike a chord with me, to be honest.
Yeah,
my feeling is no. Just so, by the way, here's a question. There's a comment here from AWLGX. Look, Israel, as you know, is illegitimate because it was founded in 1948. Because it's only that makes it 80 years old. Okay, so it's founded in 1948. That's 52 plus
the vast majority of nation globally are founded after the Second World War.
So Egypt is invalid because it's founded in 1948. Algeria is completely bogus because it's from 1962. Bahrain from 71. Djibouti from 77. Egypt 1922. So it's ancient.
Sorry, Kosovo 2008.
Jordan, 1946. Oh my gosh, Israel should be ashamed. Look at the age of Jordan. It's a real country.
And Egypt, that the 1922 is actually not correct, because 1922 it was independent from the Brits, but it was under an Albanian dynasty.
Right.
Until 52.
Kuwait, 61. Lebanon 43. I mean, Lebanon is 5 whole years older than Israel. So
The,
clearly Israel is just a fake.
the,
No, it's 5 years. Yeah, Israel's a fake because Lebanon really shows what an old nation is.
actually, Lebanon never existed as an independent nation in history, ever.
So are you saying that all of these Muslim claims just do not ever get backed up by the facts? It's all just fiction these people are throwing at
No,
us.
here's the thing in Muslim mentality, whichever land Islam ruled for a day, it becomes theirs
It's
forever.
waqf. Yeah.
They still
Yeah.
until today actually want Spain back.
They want everything back and they have to take the whole world because the caliphate,
Yes.
the
Uh,
requirement is universal.
because you could, and the reason for that, there is a hadith by Muhammad. He said in a vision, Allah bended the earth for him, and he saw the east and the west, and his nation rule would reach as far as he can see. So he basically professed for them that they're going to rule the earth, and then for the majority of Muslims, take that to the bank.
Right.
And nothing else does compute. But back to the point you made of the illegitimacy of Israel, whatever method actually Israel came about by, it's the same method you have Jordan, Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon, because you had the French and the British mandate over those.
Right. Yeah, so
So
a lot of these arguments fall flat then.
yeah, with a little different, the French mandate over Syria and Lebanon in for some time in the 40s was actually with the Vichy French government, the Nazi French.
Right. Okay.
So that's the time when you had the cooperation between the Palestinian guerrilla coming from Lebanon and Syria, like what's his name, Azzeddin al-Qassam, and others. Lebanon and Syria was ruled by Nazis.
Yeah. And it's crazy. I'll just close that because I mean, you've got Haj Amin al-Hussein, who's literally doing the Nazi salute in front of Nazis because he was a voluntary Nazi. I mean, he was a literal Nazi. I mean, you have shops you actually have shops in Palestine and Morocco and other places called the Nazi store. Now, how are you
You
accusing?
actually, there are two other things are probably as interesting. In 1930, there's the Arab Party. They had their youth group called for a couple of years. They were called the Nazi Scouts. That's
Right.
the Arab Party. And you had, I just found something a couple of weeks ago. Let me read it for you. It was a draft proposal written by Amin al-Husseini. I have it in his own handwriting. That's the translation. He was proposing this for Germany and Italy to sign. Germany and Italy recognized that the illegality of the Jewish home in Palestine. They accord to Palestine and to other Arab countries the right to resolve the problem of the Jewish elements in Palestine and other Arab countries in accordance with the interest of the Arabs by the same method that is the question is now being settled in the Axis countries. Under this agreement, no Jewish immigration into Arab countries should be permitted. Did you hear that? He
No,
wanted to solve. He wanted to solve the Jewish element that's written in 1941, the Jewish problem in the Middle East, across the Middle East, not just in Palestine, by the same method the German and the Italian were solving that problem in 1941.
So they were collaborators all across. That is crazy history.
When Rommel lost the war of Alamein, what was waiting for Rommel in Greece, there was one of the Gruber commander, the mobile death camp, it's called the Egyptian, was waiting for him in Greece. So if he win Al Alamein, join in Egypt, the mobile death squad would join him to go into Palestine. To do what exactly?
Say it again, sorry. Two.
Rommel had in Greece was under the German at the time. He
Right.
had a mobile death squad waiting in Greece called the Gruber Commander Egyptian was in
Okay.
Greece. waiting for Rommel to win Al Alamein battle to join him to go into Palestine. To do what? Why
They
you
will
have
do.
a mobile death camp in
I mean,
40?
the Germans actually planned to bomb Tel Aviv. They actually planned it. I believe there was a bombing of Tel
I
Aviv.
think they did.
Yeah, they did, but they planned to do some serious bombing of, and then they didn't carry through on the major plan, but they did at least one bombing run on Tel Aviv. So the Germans actually bombed Israel. It's crazy.
And in 1948, you had 7 Arab armies. 2 of them were the Arab Liberation Army and the Holy Jihad Army. The leader of those two armies, both of them were Third Reich officers.
Crazy. So this is more than just Amin al-Husseini in Palestine, in
Oh no, no, no,
Jerusalem,
no!
though.
It's not al-Husseini. It's actually it continued until the
No, I
mid
mean it goes well
90s.
beyond him. It goes well beyond just him.
Yeah, it goes until the mid 90s. Like there
Yeah.
is one guy, fascinating character called Francois Jonwa. He was the holder of Hitler writing copyright. He actually sued a couple of British newspapers for infringement in Hitler copyright. And he was the executor of Last Will and Testament of Joseph Goebbels. And he was the financier of the PLO, PFLP, and Khomeini when he was in France. And he was one of the founder. You remember, you know, Bank al-Taqwa? The FBI closed that down ages ago.
No, I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, it was a Muslim Brotherhood financier bank where it financed from Al Qaeda to anybody else, and he was one of the founder of that. And one of the co-founder with him in Bank Taqwa was one of the first Western speaker in the Iranian parliament after Khomeini. So it goes well beyond Second World War. It goes well beyond the 90s, and it was not just Al Husseini. It was, a
Right.
whole set of them.
Yeah, I just wanted to show the audience here. We've got, for instance, this is a Hitler store in Algeria. Let me just Hitler store in Algeria,
There
right?
is one in Cairo.
Yeah, there's plenty all over the place. I mean, this is, as you can see, this is a very old picture. This is from the 1830s, so therefore it's no longer. No. This is a very modern, recent photo. So yeah, you've got, look at India, a Hitler store in India, in New Delhi. The owner of a clothing store with the little
The
swastika up here.
Yeah, the argument someone can use is, "Oh, these is stupid people don't know what they're doing." Could you
Oh, they
look up? No, could you look up something? Could look up Johann von Leers.
let's see, yeah, because this thing keeps going to Polish, which is Johann van Leers. Kom eens kijken. Wie is
That's
hier?
him. Yeah,
That's it.
that's the guy. And look, he was down here when he was
Omar Ahmed.
post-war. Amin, named after Amin al-Husseini, converted to Islam in Egypt and he became a Muslim, and was Abdel Nasser advisor.
So he was actually, wow. So he's a former Nazi, I would assume, who's actually then.
He was what we call ultra comfort, old soldier, not just. I think he has something like about 30 books in German, and he wrote a few in Arabic. One of them called Juden sahen Sie, the Jews looking at you. And that was Jamal Abdel Nasser educational advisor or propaganda advisor.
Okay, I actually want to show the audience something here. Just for the audience, just this is on my channel. This is called Hitler, Palestine, and Muslim Nazis, Part 3. We just maxed this out. So you can just see this. Notice there's your Nazi officer. And as you can see, these are full-blooded Germans right here. You can see this is definitely an Eskimo. It's sarcasm. So notice you have a German Nazi SS officer.
Yeah. Do you know what happened to those Croat and Bosnian Muslim after Second World War? They actually, some of them joined the volunteer army in 48 war. So
Right.
you had actual from the SS Waffen 13. You had some of them actually joining in the Arab side on 48 war.
Yeah. So these are Muslim Nazis. I mean, so Muslims have the cheek to say, well, Israel's a Nazi state. That's like, man, these guys were Nazi to the brim all
There,
across Arabia.
there,
It's
there is
crazy.
there is a book was published recently, very interesting, called Nazis on the Nile,
Okay.
where it lists all, because they were in Egypt. They were in education, in police, in military, and on and on and on. It's a very interesting read.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, and Al-Husseini
And
was called the
yeah,
Führer of the Arab world. I mean, he was the,
uh, yeah, and I did go on through my X account. We did a few about them, where we documented the
do you
connection,
want
because
to do you want to spend a few minutes just going through your X account, just going through some of your posts, the kind of things you respond to? So, or shall we do that? Or are we
basically, I am a history nerd. I don't like historical revisionism, and I try to bring because Thomas Sowell said the worst thing you can the way you read history is how it was, not how would you like it to be. So
Mhm.
I would love it if, as an Egyptian, if our government did come out, says, okay, we were in the wrong side in the 48 war. We made King Farouk made the bad decision. Let's move on. Post World War II, the Japanese embraced the defeat, and they actually came out, where the German as well, the Italian, and they were welcomed into the family of nations. Arabs, because of the culture, we still insist that the 48 war is not over yet, and we just want it to continue. And the education system is being corrupted, where we actually don't study history. A lot of people you will talk with in the Middle East haven't studied anything about the history of the Arab-Israeli conflict at all. They study propaganda, not history. Like, first time in my life I read the Israeli Declaration of Independence was in my mid 20s. I did not know they actually asked the Arab to stay, because
Mm.
all what I learned and growing up, oh, no, 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 they went on randomly killing everybody and told them to get out. Where in historical fact that didn't happen. So I just like to correct people when they pick up, this weird random fact of we've been around for thousands of years. It's like, not really. We have um, uh, different culture. In Islamic country, there is a group of people called Ashraf, the
Mhm.
nobles. Those are the descendant of Muhammad, and they used to have different agency to actually record the family's name, because they had certain privilege under the Ottoman Empire. So we actually literally have the names of every family and where they came from.
Okay.
And it's published in books by Arabs, where each family, where the Tamimi and Husseini and Khalidi, where they came from. And then we have the ones from Egypt. So history is a little different than propaganda, especially with the graduate of the TikTok University of History. Just annoys me.
Interesting. I just have here, I won't go too much longer. I try not to go for like, long shows
Uh, w-
but I just want to show your X account and maybe we can just, you can just highlight one or two things that, about your, I'll just drop this in the chat so everyone can find you on X. Please follow him there for those of you who are on X. Um,
yeah, this is the first one you have. This one, this is actually was from an article by Abu Mazen Mahmoud Abbas, where he's saying in 48 the Arab government are the ones who asked the Arab Palestinian to leave.
mhm.
But of
Yeah,
course, people says,
but they
there is
lost. They lost
yeah
the
there,
war, so.
yeah there is another one which is absolutely fascinating to me. If you go down, it was a leaflet from Haifa Worker Union, appealing to the Arab population is, please don't leave, please stay. Those people are, not helping you. That's the whole Nazi connection in Arab. So
Yeah, I've done Palestine extensively, the history.
This article is from an Egyptian newspaper, semi-national newspaper, in November 47, where Azam Basha, the Secretary General of Arab League, before the independence of Israel, I said, "Oh, we're going to have a war of extermination of the Jews in Israel. We will exterminate them." So the Arabs actually had in mind where we're going to finish this war in a couple of weeks, and we'll get rid of everybody. Didn't work, thankfully.
Hmm. Why is it that you've left Islam, I believe, right? You were a Muslim, you're an ex-Muslim now.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Are you willing to mention why did you left
Uh,
Islam?
because if you actually study Islam from its founding document, it's internally contradictory belief system. At best, you have an unknown being called Allah. There is a couple of things you have you have al-aqidah tahawiyya in your library. There is two concepts, for example, two concepts within Islamic theology: mukhalafa, dissimilarity, and tanzih. Um, how you translate tanzih in English?
I can try to find it in the encyclopedia.
Oh wow, my English.
Tanzia, you said.
Tanzih. Sorry, I'll look it up.
Spell that. Just spell it for me. What's it like in English?
It's one of those things where I know the word.
Yeah, but how would you spell it in English? Tanzi. What would it be?
Tanzih in English will be T.
No, how do you spell it in Arabic? Tanzi, what? Yeah,
Ta
in English.
ta na za ya te nun ze ye te. Tanzih. Transcendentalism. Okay, Allah in Islam is so transcendent and so dissimilar from his creation, to the extent that Muslim theologian says whatever comes to your mind, Allah something else.
Oh, okay, that's convenient.
Do you know what the implication?
Tas tasbih wa
No,
tanzi.
tanzih, yeah. You know
There you
what's an so they literally says whatever comes to your mind, Allah something else. You know what's the
That's,
implication for that?
tell me.
The,
No, I'd be
no, the
curious to know.
implication is you can never tell me anything about Allah that is can be understood by human concept.
Yeah. So
Ever.
withdrawal in theology, denying Allah any resemblance to anything.
Okay,
Transcendentalism.
human understanding, we are limited by our human understanding, human experience, and human language and culture and so on. If there is absolutely no similarity whatsoever, then you cannot actually tell me anything about Allah. Okay, you follow?
Yeah, no, I mean you can't. Yeah,
Okay,
so there's
sorry.
so
No,
Allah has no relationship to his creation. He
he's
has nothing in
dissimilar
common.
from his creation. But here's the problem. What's the Quran?
It
That
is
that doctrine negates the existence of the Quran. It makes the Quran being revealed in a human language uh, is not telling you anything about Allah, because Allah is dissimilar to the creation, and you can only understand language that is use human concept.
and Allah can only speak Arabic, which is
Uh,
interesting.
no, Allah cannot speak in human concept. What like there is a lot of things when the Quran says Allah has a hand or a side. Muslim Sunni, at least theologian, who says he has a hand, a true hand, but it means whatever he means by it.
So then
Okay,
Allah is
sorry,
deformed or
no, no,
undefinable.
no.
Allah is
What
nothing. He's
no? What does it mean to me? Because the problem is you have to understand the text as prescriptive, and you cannot use reason to understand what it is. That's why I
yeah.
said it's intellectual junk food. So uh, you have an unknown being with someone telling you things about that unknown being. That's one problem. The other
Yeah.
problem, it actually doesn't solve the problem it poses. Every religion, every belief system, every philosophy must answer four questions, uh, because we already here, me and you were talking. So how did we get here? And we're already discussing something because we don't think everything is perfect. So what's the problem? And how you get out of the problem and how it all ends. I can translate those in theological terms, like you're talking uh, creation, fall, redemption, consummation, or you can use it in Darwinian term, whatever it is. And the answer for the question must actually be consistent. According to Islam, how we get here, Allah created everybody. Okay, what's the problem? You don't obey Allah. How you solve it? Obey Allah. Isn't that the problem? Because you're asking me to repeat what I couldn't do. Okay, so I
Right.
am.
This is a mind bender.
Sorry, I didn't reject it because someone did something I didn't accept. It's because it's rationally and logically, it's inconsistent, incoherent belief system.
Yeah, that means there's
I
no objectivity. There's nothing that is objective.
You cannot in Islam, you actually cannot tell me logically, you cannot tell me anything about Allah that's meaningful, because if I understand it, he's something else.
But then how are we the creations of Allah? How are we in His image? How are we in any way able
Sorry,
to
in
imitate His
image, that's not an Islamic concept.
concept? Yeah, I know. This is insane. I mean, this is a completely alien
Even though there is
thought.
a hadith says Allah made Adam on his image, but
Right.
Muslims reject the concept because you will have a lot of things that actually don't go together at all. Another one, and I stop here. If you really understand Islam correctly, the best way for people to be saved, according to Islam, is never to tell them anything about Islam. The Quran says
Right.
Allah never punish anybody unless He send them a warner, a prophet. Okay,
Right.
so if you don't want to punish people, what should you do? Don't send anyone, because if they don't know, they cannot be punished. You know, according to Islam, people go to hell for rejecting Islam. It's not saving anybody. But if you don't want them to reject it, then don't tell them.
That is,
I can see
this
your
is,
facial expression.
dude. You know, the problem is, okay, so when I read the Sharia, it'll say you cannot kill babies. Absolutely not.
Uh,
And then, like, as you're reading that same sentence, it says, except if it happens by accident, or you really have to, or there's no choice, or the guy won't surrender. Then you know,
uh,
just kill the
and
babies.
not
And
even in by accident, because Muhammad, some of his followers came to him and says, we raid villages at night and
yes, I
we,
know.
we,
So it
we, we kill.
contradicts itself in the same sentence. It'll say A is one, and in the very same sentence, before it even gets to the full stop, it'll say the exact opposite.
the,
So
the
there's
whole the whole
literally
thing is a whole self-contradictory belief system.
exactly. So when you read the Sharia, you see this. It is literally, I mean, everything is abrogated, everything is opposite. In the Sharia, there is for every single law or rule or precept or commandment or whatever, there is its exact opposite that is also valid. Right? It's literal contradictory opposite is also valid. It's crazy. And now you're saying the
Yeah,
theology is just as backwards and upside down as that. It's
remind
insane.
me of a Latin book was written by Peter Abelard called Sic et Non, yes and no, where you can get everything where there is the yes and no for it. There is an Egyptian author who did it's a fiction book called Maulana, where at part of it where he's interviewing supposedly a cleric, a sheikh, to speak about a certain subject, and the sheikh asked him, "Do you want it to be halal or haram?" It's like
Yes.
I can do it either way. Which one you would like?
Yeah. Remember I said earlier there is no there's technically there are no morals in Islam. There is legal and illegal, and there are legal loopholes that can allow for breaking all of the law. and you can make the legal illegal and vice versa.
Uh,
So
there are some Muslim society in Africa where the marriage is not limited by four. It exceeds that a lot. And the loophole they took was a commentary by Fakhruddin al-Razi. I believe you also have his book, where al-Razi said when the Quran says marry two or three or four, he's
yeah,
not limiting you to the four. It's actually, he's using wa and in Arabic, which means that an addition, and that means 18, but it's more like, he said, yeah, marry two, three, four. It means any number you like. So whichever one you want to take it, it
yeah,
works.
it's representative of many. It is not a limit. I know it's so you. This is why there is it is completely subjective. It is irrational. I mean, look, the Sharia explicitly claims that Islam is Gnostic, and if it's Gnostic, it is not founded on any kind of reality. So
Because the being supposedly the Quran present is, according to the Quran itself, is unknown, unknowable. Because if the Quran is true, then the Quran cannot be a revelation of Allah, because you cannot reveal anything about Allah using human language.
he's nuts.
Uh,
Allah's an alien. I mean, this is so. This is incoherent philosophy. This is incoherent.
no, alien might be like what you call them, Scientology. You can actually have an alien belief system that's coherent, like realism, but it's incoherent. You cannot actually have it any way other than a smorgasbord approach, pick and choose whatever you like and ignore the rest.
This is nuts. You know, can we have this conversation again and maybe we prep some notes? Maybe we get through some of the theology. I look up some of the notes. You know, we
Okay,
prepare a few
look it
talking.
up. It's better for me if I actually don't prepare, because if I prepare, I tend to over prepare, and then I'll be
No, that's fine. Look, that's
speaking
fine. I mean, this
gibberish.
is just a great conversation because this is a very new chapter in Islam. This is something new for me as well. I mean, I'm aware of the inconsistencies, but you are explaining some of the foundations that I was not aware of.
You know, have you ever read Immanuel Kant?
Um, I've been to his outside of his house. I looked at his went to his
Okay,
statue and
if
whatnot.
if you try to apply Kant transcendental reasoning to Islam, it will really get wild,
Yeah,
because
I've actually, you know what, I've covered him in my philosophy series. I can't remember offhand, but look, having read through a lot of these people were nominalists, as much as they may lie about it, try to claim otherwise, that they're not objective. They're not into objective reality,
you
which is
can't be
well,
objective. You literally can't, because we're talking earlier about Sharia. When you have the exact same action taken by different people with a different punishment or different halal and haram for each one of them, that's
mhm,
not objectivity. That's literally the definition of being subjective, depends on who did what.
yeah. And Kant
Uh,
destroyed philosophy. Kant did not. I mean, if I remember some of
no,
his ideas.
sorry, that would be Hume who destroyed philosophy.
No, well, no, well, look, when I did I did a series on, I cannot remember the references. I'd have to go back and read it. But many of these people were just talking bullshit, as far as I can tell.
Kant, one of the things he did, which is helpful in this case, the
No,
transcendental
he
reasoning,
wasn't.
is
Who
he
was the
was
guy that
going
said,
into what would have to be true for that statement you said to be meaningful. There is
yeah,
certain foundation to make any sentence meaningful.
you know, I know that for instance, like when you look at various of these philosophers, they will emphasize something they said that was profound. I mean, even a stopped clock is right twice a day. So they would have said something that was genuinely profound and fine. But when you look at the rest of their philosophy, it's
Oh,
garbage.
I absolutely agree, because Kant at the end he became subjectivist, and the
Yeah.
differentiation between the noumena and phenomena was
And
just wild.
who
But
was the philosopher that said, I think, therefore I am?
René Descartes, and he was
Descartes. Yeah.
cheating. He was
Now
cheating.
think of this. So pause a moment here. So for instance, everyone goes, wow, that's a profound statement.
No,
People don't realize that they're misinterpreting the statement because they've been educated to do exactly
yeah,
that. When he says,
because
I
he could.
think, no, hold on a second. When he
Yes,
says,
go on.
I think, therefore I am, what he means is, I think, therefore I am God. Because in a Christian context, I am is God. God is the I am. So he's saying, I am God. So people go, no, I am conscious. I exist because I have intellect. No, no, he never said that. He said he's
Yeah,
God.
yeah,
There's a so everyone gets it
yeah,
wrong because they train
and
to
he
mistake.
actually logically he begged the question. He started with the I to prove his own existence,
Yep.
because all what he knows logically, there is thinking going on. Who is
Yeah.
thinking? I don't know.
And
Because
so
they
these
can equally said,
people,
I stink, therefore I am.
yeah, I mean, so when you read their philosophy and you realize that these universities are just they're idolizing people that were writing garbage, utter garbage when you read their stuff. I
Uh, we all right now, actually, most of us are Hegelian without knowing it. And that was the most mind-bending philosophy of them all. I don't think
okay.
Hegel himself understands his own
Yeah.
philosophy.
We have
But
Sam saying, "Bring him back, please." I've got people saying, "We need to bring you back." And if you guys follow me on X and I get to 10,000 subscribers in the next 90 minutes, I will consider issuing an invite to him. How's that? Yeah, so I'd like to let's not go to. Wow, thank you very much, Health Mongoose, for the £5 super chat. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, shall we prepare some notes and have another conversation? We can.
uh, yeah, you can prepare notes. I'm still here. You can have somebody ask a question, and
Yeah. So
I'm getting to know you. That's all.
yeah, look, that's all. I mean, it takes time to get comfortable with someone sometimes, just. But yeah, I mean, this is interesting. These, I mean, look, few people realize that there's a lot of philosophy that also made its way into Islam, but they misinterpreted Plato's philosophy. They found a fraud who had written what they thought was Plato's philosophy, but they discovered it wasn't actually him. So they had these for hundreds of years. They had the wrong
Oh,
philosophy.
the worst one of them all, in my personal opinion, is Ibn Rushd, Averroes, who
Yeah,
created something that's in philosophy that's absolute nonsense.
yeah,
The double truth, where you have something that's truthful in a theological sense, but it's not truthful in logical sense.
right. No, this is.
Be-
I mean, so I'd have to go do some research on that myself because I've looked at the notes, but not in depth, and I haven't done any work on it. But this is. I mean, this is just garbage philosophy. It's in the West. It infected the West during the not the Renaissance because the Muslims through the Byzantines infected the West with
it's
this
mostly
philosophy.
during the French Revolution.
No, no, I've covered the French Revolution. That was insane. But yeah, but it entered Europe. These ideas entered Europe in the from the Byzantine through Italy and so on. But yeah, that's something we're talking about. So, but thank you. I mean, let's pause here and we'll pick this up again in a couple of weeks if you're okay with that, so we can
Sure,
prep.
anytime. Just
But
let
this
me
has
know.
been amazing. I mean, seriously, mind bending some of this information.
And for next time, you really should tell me to stop talking, because I end up talking to myself, and tell me to stop talking when I go in a rabbit hole.
All right. Yeah. No, sorry. I should just let me just take this off stream. Yeah, people are very impressed. I think everyone's been, really had their eyes opened, because there were some things that were just like, huh? Even for me, I don't read the Arabic. I don't understand the culture as much as you do. I've spent 10 years in the Middle East, but I mean, I know there are gaps, but you have just filled in a few crazy histories that, like it's like hard to, because I'm busy
But
courses.
by the way, most of those were gaps for me, because growing up in Egypt, what we studied at school was selective history.
Mhm.
Like in our school books, Egyptian history, we have an entire 600 years of Egyptian history almost doesn't exist. From the first to the sixth century, we go from the Greeks to the Islamic,
Right.
and the rest is just we fly over it, because we had people are convinced that the entire Egyptian history started with Islamic conquest, which is as weird as it
False.
sounds. Yes. No,
That is, yeah.
and then when you start reading the actual history, it's like, wow, why
Yeah.
nobody ever told me that? So anyway, thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is yeah. No, really, I try to go roughly 90 minutes. We've gone just under 2 hours. I try also not to go over 2 hours where possible. I try to limit. But yeah, let's prep something. Let's talk again. I mean, this was really interesting. There's so many things to explore. For the audience, please drop your comments, drop your thoughts, what you'd like him to speak about, what you'd like us to research and speak on further, because this really opened an insight into Islam that even I was surprised at, and the history that even I was taken surprised at, you know.
Or they can ask me on X, you know.
Yeah, follow us on X. I am on X. We dropped his details. It's in the chat. Ibn Warraq, and yeah, me under my name. The reason I use too few Lloyds is because I think there's too few of me. But so, but that's one reason. But yeah, everyone is really really impressed. I think everyone's really surprised
And
and learned.
I used Ibn Warraq for being Egyptian, you know. We're one of the original who make papers.
Okay, no,
Ibn
yeah,
Warraq means the son of the paper maker.
son of the paper maker. Okay,
So
yeah.
back to the
Um,
papyrus and stuff like that. So
all right. And
anyway,
Lloyd as
thank
well
you.
should include the gray head. Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, so perhaps we can listen in a couple of weeks. Or you know, sometime next week. I've got a busy schedule this week with interviews, and then but I'd love to have this chat again, and we can plan a few things.
Yeah,
But this was,
just drop me a note, because he actually had absolutely no idea how my brain works. Now you have a rough idea, so you can direct the chat next time.
yeah. Also, I note I appreciate that. I mean, of the things that I was saying, you added to them, you corroborated them, or you expanded upon them. But at least you didn't like say, no, I'm wrong. You know, I appreciate that. You know, because you seem to.
Yeah, when we're dealing with a contradictory belief system, nobody can be wrong, because whatever you says, I can actually prove it from the text,
Yeah. No,
and the
exactly.
opposite.
No, I can prove it from the text, and I work with the text. I don't work on opinion. You know, I work on a basis of evidence and logic. I work with the trivium. You understand the concept of the trivium as well.
Yeah,
Uh, so I work very much within that framework, and I notice that Muslims don't. It's all mythology. It's all made up. It's all opinion. It's
and you will see the greatest achievement for most Muslims. I memorized the Quran. It's like, okay, did you understand it? They memorize it, not understanding it.
right. No,
I don't work for
and these,
memorizing. I would like to understand what I'm memorizing.
no, these distinctions are very important, and that's true. And also, I mean, remember that in Islam, there's Samir, there's this letter magic. I mean, technically, it's like NLP on steroids, where they confuse with magic, with words. They weave spells. It's crazy that when you look into the Sharia and when you look into Islamic doctrine, magic is like 45% of it. Magic is everywhere within the definitions.
Next time.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Thank you very much. And yeah, well, we'll pick this up on next. And guys, thank you very much for the participation. Please drop your notes, your thoughts, and your questions for next time, topics to explore. And it could be a very interesting discovery. I mean, we're opening up Pandora's box here with Islam. And yeah, that's been great. So
Okay. And because I never use that, I'll disconnect now. Bye.
thanks, guys. Take care. Bye bye.